that was the conversation on LinkedIn. That these promises that they're making are too good to be true, right? These 10 to 50 high net worth leads coming in every single week. It's a too good to be true promise, right? I would say that assignment of that label is more about you than them. It's more about you than them. What I saw in that conversation was that there was a mindset across pretty much every participant. There was a prejudgment, a prejudice that these lead generation services, their promises were too good to be true. They didn't believe it. If you decide that you are going to notice evidence that supports the conclusion you have already come to, that confirms how you have labeled them, how you have designated their value or lack thereof. Advisors who have really succeeded with this, who have built their business through the paid lead sources, they didn't come at this with a too good to be true. They said, okay, so explain to me how this works. You are getting people to fill out a form that says that they're interested in financial services and that shares some information about their current financial picture. And I get that information and then I have to reach out to them. Okay, well, I'm going to build a system that is designed to connect with those people, to start the conversation with them, to bring them into our practice, bring them into our process, and hopefully turn them into clients. And we're going to see how it works. So instead of immediately assuming, oh, that's too good to be true, they say, how might this work? Could we make it work? And again, that different assumption about the nature of what's going on here can make all the difference when it comes to, number one, your behavior in the context of this opportunity. And then number two, the results you get. Welcome to Daily Discovery Calls for Financial Advisors, the first and only show dedicated exclusively to helping entrepreneurial, growth-driven financial advisors book more discovery calls with qualified prospects every day of the week. I'm your host, Roy Furr, the Advisor CMO. Let's get into it. And we're back with another episode of Daily Discovery Calls for Financial Advisors. I'm Roy Furr. I am the Advisor CMO. And today we're going to be talking about lead generation for financial advisors. Should you buy leads or do it yourself? Should you buy leads or do it yourself if you want more leads for your financial advisory business, for your RIA? So quick background, I'm happy to talk about lead generation every day. I can talk about it all day, but why am I focusing on it this episode? Well, it's because I saw and then got into the middle of an argument on LinkedIn between a bunch of financial advisors. And it started off with a post that led with this promise that so many lead generation agencies make. We provide 10 to 50 high net worth leads per week, right? We provide this number of leads per week. And there was just a pile-on in the comments trashing these lead generation services, saying, oh, if these services had to operate under the same marketing compliance restrictions that we have to, they would never be able to make claims like this, yada, yada. And then complaining lead generation services don't work, complaining that there's not enough people in the world for them to provide 10 to 50 high net worth leads per week, yada, 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 lots of complaining. And, the consensus among all these people who were complaining on social media was, hey, this is just an impossible promise. And the reality is that others are making them work. Like just last week at Future Proof, I talked to an advisor who is currently getting 2.5 MER marketing efficiency ratio as new annual recurring revenue, ARR. So he's putting $1 in this year. He's getting $2.5 back this year. And that revenue is recurring year after year. And he is used, and this is a primary lead generation source for him, paying people to generate leads for him, paying for leads that are pre-generated. And he's been growing over 7-8 years at greater than 50% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, with lead generation services as a primary source. talked to another advisor. His story is very similar. I don't have his numbers here in my notes, but he has aggressively grown by figuring out how to make these paid lead generation services work. So the question is how, right? And is it really right for you? Just because somebody else is making it work with methods that work for them does not mean that it's something that you should do. And so I'm going to approach this not in the sense of trying to defend these lead generation services, although I will say that the promises, they are probably painting themselves in the best light, but they're probably painting themselves in the best truthful light for these lead generation services. And in a lot of cases, they are able to, or have been able to achieve these goals. I have worked with clients where we've turned on a new media channel and suddenly they're getting dozens of new calls for people who are interested in meeting with them. And so it is possible. It's possible within a fairly tight geographic area, especially if it's a bigger market. It's just a matter of, is it possible for you? Is it possible in your market? And can you actually make it work if they actually start delivering on these promises? So let's see. That's the background. In this episode, we're going to dive into the truth about financial advisor lead generation. We're going to talk about lead generation services, how to make them profitable, why you generating your own leads might actually be the superior way here, what to do if you're not good at marketing, but you want to be able to generate your own leads, and my perspective on all of this as a fractional CMO. So if I'm stepping into your business to drive the marketing function, to solve the marketing challenges, the biggest of which is getting new clients in the door, what am I going to look at here in terms of which one of these options I'm going to pursue? So starting with the truth about financial advisor lead generation. Well, as you know, I guess this is me putting on my Captain Obvious hat here, but new clients and customers are the lifeblood of any business. It is great to have super high retention, and financial service has notoriously high retention with great numbers. I talked about that in a recent episode. But if you want to grow, and really if you want to survive, you do have to have new clients coming in the door from time to time. And if you want to grow rapidly, this is absolutely your number one problem to solve now. You need to be having more discovery calls, more first conversations with new potential clients. And when you do that, that's how you're going to be growing your business, right? So what this comes down to is you really have one of two options. And frankly, in financial services, you have two options when in a lot of businesses, there's really one option. So the first option is you can get leads yourself. Pretty much every business in every category, they have this option. You can go out there, you can put marketing in the marketplace, or you can go out there and you can burn holes in your shoe soles, going out, meeting people, having conversations, and generating leads. You can do it through manual one-on-one labor, through sales, or you can do it through marketing, where you take your selling messages and you package them up in media and you put them out into the world and hopefully multiply your impact that way. Or in financial services, it's not totally unique, but it is somewhat unique that there are pretty established services out there and a number of different services that you have to choose from, where you're actually just paying someone to get leads for you, to send leads your way. So you have the opportunity to pick up the phone, give them a call, and have a conversation with them. And they're at least interested in services like yours. They may not know who the heck you are when they pick up the phone, but they're at least interested in services like yours. So the next thing that I want to cover here is that these too good to be true, like that was the conversation on LinkedIn, that these promises that they're making are too good to be true, right? These 10 to 50 high net worth leads coming in every single week. It's a too good to be true promise, right? These too good to be true services. I would say that assignment of that label is more about you than them. It's more about you than them. It is what I saw in that conversation was that there was a mindset across pretty much every participant that there was a prejudgment, a prejudice that these lead generation services, their promises were too good to be true. They didn't believe it, right? Okay, fair enough. If you decide that the way your mind works, the way that your mind works is confirmation bias. You are going to notice evidence that supports the conclusion you have already come to, that confirms how you have labeled them, how you have designated their value or lack thereof. And so if you say this is too good to be true, you're just going to be looking for a bunch of people to give you their stories to support, hey, yeah, it is too good to be true. I tried it. It didn't work for me. All the leads were crap, yada, yada, all the reasons why it's a failure, versus the advisors who have really succeeded with this, who have built their business through these through the paid lead sources. They didn't come at this with a too good to be true. They said, okay, so explain to me how this works. You are getting people to fill out a form that says that they're interested in financial services and that shares some information about their current financial picture. And I get that information and then I have to reach out to them. Okay, well, I'm going to build a system that is designed to convert that. I'm going to build a system that is designed to connect with those people, to start the conversation with them, to bring them into our practice, bring them into our process, and hopefully turn them into clients. And we're going to see how it works. So instead of immediately assuming, oh, that's too good to be true, they say, well, how might this work? Could we make it work? And again, that different assumption about the nature of what's going on here can make all the difference when it comes to, number one, your behavior in the context of this opportunity. And then number two, the results you get, because how you think about it is going to influence your behavior, is going to influence the results that you get. So you have options here. And I'm not telling you that you should go chase this down. By the end of this episode, you're going to hear that, right? But you have options here, and it's up to you to figure them out. It's up to you to take responsibility for the results that you're going to get here. Option one, let's dive into these lead generation services for financial advisors. I have notes here on their business model, on advantages, disadvantages, and how to succeed if you are going to go down the path of, yeah, I'm just going to pay somebody to generate leads for me. So their business model is to attract, focus, and sell prospects' general interest in financial services. Okay, I'm going to break that down a little bit here. So someone is out on the internet. A lot of these operate on the internet. They mostly operate on the internet these days. So someone is out on the internet. They are searching for topics around financial services, or they're reading investment news, or, Yahoo Finance or whatever. And they are someone who is either actively or passively in the market for financial services for a financial advisor. These lead generation services are putting out content, they're putting out advertising that attracts, they're really good at attracting the interest of that prospect with specific messaging that is relevant to the buying process of choosing a financial advisor. And so they maybe put out an article, they put out banner ads, I could go into more detail on the specific type of advertising that they're using, but they are attracting the interest, general interest of someone who is in the market for financial services. They then focus that interest through the messaging that they're using, through walking that person into an actual lead generation funnel. A lot of people in financial services marketing, they use the word funnel in some vague, generic way where it's this amorphous thing, right? Like when I talk about funnels, what I'm talking about is a specific sequence of steps that someone would go through that ends with them taking a specific action, which is typically some kind of filling out a lead information form or even booking a call or raising their hand, or in other industries, it would be actually making a purchase, right? So when I'm talking about a lead generation funnel, I'm talking by the end of this process that they go through, they are actually filling out a form. And in the case of the selling leads, these lead generation services, that form is usually just an informational form. If you're building your own lead generation funnel, it should probably include some kind of scheduling and initial call. But the focusing of the interest of this prospect is done through marketing. It's done through moving them off of whatever random news site they were often browsing when they got into this, onto a site controlled by the service that is going to sell you the lead, focusing that attention to the point where they are they're getting the attention, they're building a level of interest in whatever message that they are that they're communicating. They are stimulating the desire of that prospect to get them to feel like they need to speak with a financial advisor, and they're asking them to take the specific action of filling out their information so that they can be connected with a financial advisor. In a lot of cases, they're doing it through something that's positioned as a quiz or like a fit tool or whatever like that. The specific tactics is not what we're looking at here. This specific business model, again, it's to attract that attention, to focus that attention. And then once that person has filled out that form, it's to sell that interest, that attention, to sell that person's information to you and usually a number of different financial advisors. These usually are not exclusive leads. There may be a cap on how many different advisors are going to get the information, but typically it's going to be you and a handful of other advisors who are getting this information sent to you as soon as the person fills out the form. And at that point, the lead generation service has done their job. Now, hopefully it's going to be a qualified lead, and that's something that you're going to have to decide on the end, on the other side of this. But the lead generation service, again, their job is, and their business model is to attract, to focus, and then to sell that prospect's general interest. Now, I use general here very specifically, that this person is generally interested in financial services. They are not specifically interested in you, right? And that's worth remembering here. They don't know who you are if they're going through this process, if they're filling this out. They may get information about you that shows up on their screen after they've filled out the form, but they don't know who you are, and there's no differentiation for you. Okay. So it's really important to understand here that at this point, this person is just generally interested in financial services, similar to what you have told the lead generation service that you are able to provide. So advantages of this model, pay to win. That's language that I actually picked up from my kids playing video games and playing card games. They play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Pay to win is the idea that if you can spend more, you win more, right? And so if you're in a video game and you can buy more expensive weapons in like a mass brawl game, whatever, then maybe you're more likely to win. Or if you can buy the more expensive cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like Magic or whatever, then maybe you can win, right? So an advantage here is if you can spend more to pay for the lead or to buy more leads through this, you're more likely to win. But it's also just pay to play, right? It's pay to play, meaning you pay to get that lead's information, and then the lead generation services, they can, wipe their hands, they're done, right? But why is that an advantage? It's an advantage because if you are able to invest in these leads, that's all it takes, right? There's leads that are guaranteed to show up if you are willing to pay. Also, it can happen really fast because they have this steady stream of leads that they are generating. They have the systems in place. Really, you could pay today, you could sign the contract today, and you could start generating leads today with some of these services. And so that speed is a great reason, actually, that you might want to pursue one of these services. There's also minimal marketing risk. So I'm going to talk about marketing risk in the context of building out your own lead generation systems. But this whole idea of minimal marketing risk marketing is inherently risky, just like, like you tell clients that investing is risky, right? That there's past performance is no guarantee of future results, that just because an investment strategy worked in the past, it doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. Well, the exact same thing with marketing. Now, there tend to be fundamental principles that work through time and through enough iterations and through diversification, right? And so, for example, if a particular process works in terms of marketing, or a particular messaging tends to work, a particular topic tends to work in terms of messaging, maybe one particular instance of it doesn't work as well. If you do it different times, if you do it other times across the board, maybe you're more likely to succeed. But when you are doing your own marketing, you are taking on that marketing risk. Am I doing the things that are going to get results? And if they don't get results, there is a loss to me, and I need to try something else until I figure out what's going to work. Now, the reason that we keep doing it is because, when you do have something that works, it can be huge. But going back to these lead generation services, this minimal marketing risk being an advantage, they are the ones taking the marketing risk. Really, it's you are paying them for the leads, and part of what you are paying them for is that they're going to do a bunch of failed tests in terms of the marketing, so that you don't have to, and you don't have to think about it, and you don't have to go through that process. Also, advantages here, they have proven systems. I talked about with marketing, certain systems, certain approaches, they work, and they work, right? These lead generation services have figured out how to generate leads for financial advisors. They've proven systems. Now, disadvantages. One of the major disadvantages that you run into right away with these lead generation services for financial advisors is that they are non-exclusive, meaning it's you and 5 other advisors, including maybe the one right down the street, that are getting these leads. When you say, I'm paying for these leads, in most cases, these lead generation services are not providing that lead to just one advisor. They're providing the lead to up to a certain number of advisors for a certain amount. And then it is up to you to fight over that lead between the advisors. And so it could be you and 3 other people calling them within minutes of each other, just depending on how that particular instance is playing out. So these are not exclusive leads. They're not coming to you specifically. There's no differentiation, meaning they don't know the difference between you and that advisor down the street who you hate his guts, because they just don't. They don't have that experience. They came through, they read an article, they said, here's a tool to help you find the best financial advisor for you. They filled out their information, they submitted it. They're given a list of 5 advisors. And hey, by the way, we sent your information to these advisors. They may be reaching out to you. Their phone is ringing. They don't really know how to choose you versus the other advisors who are reaching out to them, who showed up on their screen, right? And the other thing, the third disadvantage I have listed here is that they're less targeted. And so when you do your own marketing, you can be hyper targeted about the messaging that you are putting out, about who you're attracting, about things like asset minimums, if that's relevant to you, things like age, speaking to a specific age, speaking to a specific profession or work background, all of that. You can target like that in your marketing, but typically these lead generation services are more broad market. They're just anybody that's interested in financial services, maybe a particular topic in the context of financial services. So how do you succeed if you are doing lead generation, if you're going through one of these lead generation services? The first point that I have for you here is get there fast, if not first. Get there fast, if not first. Typically, these people, they're going to be contacted by a number of different financial advisors, like boom, 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 as soon as they fill out that information. And so you need to be perhaps the first one on, or else they say, hey, I just scheduled with somebody else. I'm going to figure out what's going on with that person before I figure out what's going on with you. You might actually need an objection handling process in place for that specific conversation, right? In some cases, there can be an advantage to not being the first one. My understanding from folks who are doing this and doing it very well is that, especially with higher net worth people, they feel like they get jumped on, and there can be kind of a negative emotional experience of being one of the 3 people who hit them within 5 minutes of filling out that form versus playing it a little bit cool. But speed needs to be a strategy regardless, because the playing it a little bit cool is a matter of minutes. It's not a matter of hours or days. You need to work hard to create differentiation out of the gate. You need to come across as being different than all the other advisors that are jumping down their throat since they filled this out. So you need something to establish yourself as uniquely positioned for this particular lead, as uniquely positioned in your ability to provide high quality financial services. Okay. I'm not going to get into specifically how to do that here, but that needs to be part of your process here. And speaking of that, you need to have a process. This doesn't work if you're just buying leads, like just buying leads. And I think I'll call them on Monday morning. You know, I'm going to get some emails that come in over the weekend and I'll just call them on Monday morning. Your process there needs to be very specific, very intentional, and built for the nature of this lead source. And so you need to have a process in place that you build, that you develop, that you refine, that you hone in order to convert this type of lead. If you're going to pay for lead generation services, you need to be very intentional about what you're going to do with those leads when they come in. And then, you know, my final how to succeed, I will telegraph a little bit here in this and all the other options, is track and optimize. You need to know your numbers. So there is a reason that the person who's growing their firm at over 50% per year in assets under management knows exactly what their marketing efficiency ratio of investing in leads from these lead generation services is, right? They know if they put in $1 in, it's getting them $2.50 out the first year, and as annual recurring revenue. They track, they optimize, and you know what gets measured gets improved. And so they are measuring how well the program is working. They're continuing to improve it and optimizing to get better results. And that's a huge part of how you succeed with this. All right, so option 2, let's say you say, you know what, some people might be making it work, but I don't want to make that work. Option 2 is to build your own lead generation marketing funnels. And I'm a marketer. I would say arguably the option 1 of going with those lead generation services is a great fit for salespeople who want to build a sales team, who don't necessarily want to be the marketer. I'm the marketer. I want the leads coming inbound and I want them coming in for me. And so option 2 is really a good fit for that. So this is having an internal marketing function where it's maybe you, it's maybe the team. Ideally, as you grow, it's the team, less so you, but you should be involved with this, because business development is like, without business development, you don't have a business. And so you, as the CEO, as the person who is running your firm, should ideally be involved with the marketing, at least on a decision-making level, and probably on a positioning, voice of the brand type level. Now, the one thing that you can end up running into, you can run on somebody else's lead generation program. You can have that running behind the scenes, and you can have a sales operation going behind the scenes, and you can just look like a nice financial advisor where all of your public stuff looks very professional and formal as a financial advisor, and is very brand and image oriented. And, you know, you just got your sales operation running in the back room, down in the boiler room, right? You have your sales operation that is converting those leads into clients. if you're going to build your own lead generation marketing funnels, your business is probably going to look a little bit different. You're going to be out there, be more public. And one of the things that I've heard over and over again in this industry is that marketing company, they don't look like a financial company. They look like a marketing company. And that's an insult, right? You have to get over that being an insult. You have to actually see that as a point of pride. You have to see that as a compliment that, oh, I must be doing something good here if people recognize that I'm actually out there and I'm generating my own leads for my business. And so marketing company can't be seen as an insult for you. You're going to have to invest in marketing. You're going to have to invest both hard costs and soft costs in marketing over the course of developing this. But if you want to build your own lead generation and marketing funnels, I mean, you're going to have to do marketing, right? Like that's what this is. So advantages of doing it this way. When you build your own marketing systems, you are attracting new prospects, new leads that aren't attracted to the general idea of financial services or achieving some financial outcome. You are attracting people who are attracted to you specifically. They're choosing you specifically. They saw you somewhere. They heard you somewhere. What you said resonated. And so now they want to do business with you. Having your own lead generation, marketing systems, funnels, it gives you differentiation. It gives you authority status. Instead of being some generic financial. So let me give you a very specific example of this. I've visited client offices in the past. There was one in particular where the conference room that we were having an all-day meeting in was in the lobby of the office, big glass wall between the conference room and the lobby. And so new clients coming through the door, they scan everybody who's sitting in the conference room. They see the advisor who they've seen on TV, who they've seen pictures in various media. They see the advisor and their eyes light up because they say, that's the guy that I am here for. And when you have a person in your marketing that is driving this lead generation function, that person is seen as an expert, an authority. They almost get celebrity status in a lot of instances in the eyes and the minds, in the hearts of their prospects. And so that prospect is excited to see them. That same advisor, he said he often has to go into new client meetings and kind of bless the meeting before that person actually will become a client. That he has to come in there, he has to shake hands, he has to ask them a couple questions, he has to make them feel good, make them feel welcome. And then they say, yes, I'm ready to sign up. And so that happens not when you're doing the lead generation services, but when you're actually building marketing. There's this recognition of you as an authority on the topics relevant to your services. Another really important thing that happens here is there's not competition during the sales process. It is less frantic, less urgent to have that conversation as soon as possible, to follow up with that person as soon as possible. Yes, speed to conversation does matter in terms of client conversion. Having conversations with them faster, getting them in the office faster, all of those things, those do make a measurable difference over a big enough sample size. But it's not the same as when you have 3 advisors calling that person within 5 minutes of filling out the form. If it's your form, it is somebody in your team getting a hold of them is going to be the first person getting a hold of them, whether it's in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days, but at that point, they might have forgotten about filling out the form. But you're not dealing with that same competition during the sales process. And the other big advantage here is you get extreme targeting because you get to target people through your messaging, through your media choices, et cetera. You get to target exactly who it is that you are speaking to. Disadvantages here on building out your own lead generation marketing funnels is that, the number one big disadvantage here is it requires marketing skill. You or the people involved with building your marketing need to have a pretty solid marketing skill set in order to be generating leads. through marketing. Now, I would argue that it, in many ways, is much simpler than a lot of people make it out to be. But somebody has to know what to do. You have to be operating from the correct strategy, and so that marketing skill has to be in place in order for you to be generating the leads. Part of, again, what you're paying for with the lead generation services is they have the marketing skill on staff. They have the marketing skill on their team, right? Another thing I mentioned earlier, marketing risk. Here you are taking on the marketing risk. You are paying for the things that work. You are paying for the things that don't. And so if you're launching marketing programs that don't work, it's not like that lead generation service that eats that or builds it into the per lead fee. So it's all averaged out. You are paying for the things that don't work when they don't work. And that can feel really expensive. Of course, you're also paying for the things that do work when they do work, and that can feel really cheap. And you do have to think about it. This is one of the reasons why marketing efficiency ratio has come up as such an important metric in making broad marketing decisions, because we could go down an entire rabbit hole with this. But for example, individual tests could be critical to figuring out what works, but it's painful when you look at a test that doesn't work. And so if you look at the broader marketing efficiency ratio of the entire marketing program within your business, meaning how much we spend on marketing, how much did it generate in new client revenue this year? Is that number where we need it to be, right? Versus looking at each individual little test and freaking out, we're looking at the broader marketing efficiency ratio is marketing accomplishing its goals in terms of the financial metrics it needs to hit. Another reason that is kind of an aside here is that in today's multi-touch, multimedia, multi-channel world, your Facebook ads may be driving your Google ads, may be driving your directory results, may be driving TV, may be driving radio. Like, all of those things have an influence, and it is impossible to piece out even huge companies with huge marketing operations that have great metrics. It's impossible for them to perfectly attribute marketing spend in all the different channels and the results that it is contributing, because there's an X factor when somebody sees you in 3 different places, right? That somehow all fit under marketing risk here in my notes, talking about the disadvantages of building your own lead generation marketing funnels. The last disadvantage that I've listed here is it's slower. It is hard to argue with the speed advantage of being able to just pay money today, get a lead today, right? And there's a certain attraction to that. It is slower to build, but it does have a snowball effect, meaning, you're building. Hopefully you are getting adequate results along the way to continue justifying that build. But then having your own lead generation marketing funnels and your own marketing program within your firm is going to give you the biggest long-term success that is most within your control. So how to succeed here? Think in terms of attract, nurture, and convert. You have to do a lot of the things that the lead generation services were doing for you. And so how am I going to attract my new leads? How am I going to nurture those leads to be more interested in having conversations with me? How am I going to convert them to get them to raise their hand and say, I'm ready to have that conversation? Build in terms of systems. A huge argument that I have with many people who do marketing for financial advisors is they really don't have systems thinking. It's this vague, like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. When I'm talking about marketing funnels, again, I'm talking about step by step. I'm talking about how do we move people through? If someone is engaging on this media, how do we give them a next step that they take that moves that sales process incrementally forward, one step at a time? And how do we turn all of that into a system? I would say this is really big. You want to expect a learning curve. You need to expect a learning curve in terms of your ability to get results with lead generation marketing. And so don't expect that you're going to succeed right out of the gate. Hopefully you will. There are ways to have more or less success out of the gate, but you need to expect that it's not all going to be sunshine and roses the moment you launch. Here's a really good thinking tool from a friend, colleague, client of mine, Perry Marshall, who wrote 80/20 Sales and Marketing, a huge book on marketing thinking, marketing strategy. He used, and I shared this in a previous episode. He says that all marketing needs to be measured and optimized in the context of traffic, conversion, and economics. And so you have to get people, the traffic, the eyeballs, right, to get into your process, into your lead generation funnel, whatever that funnel looks like. And I have previous episodes, by the way, about lead generation funnels, 3 perfect lead generation funnels for financial advisors. It's worth checking out. The traffic is the people that you get in. Conversion is your ability to get someone who is engaging with your content to take that desired action where they fill out a form, where they give their information, where they schedule a discovery call, whatever that conversion event is. But then it all has to happen under a certain economics so that what you are spending to get the traffic and how well it converts all falls within your acceptable cost to acquire a client. And so you need to be looking at these different things. Okay, it's not enough to just have traffic, to have eyeballs, to have ears, to have whatever the number of prospects are who are engaging with my content. I also have to be able to get them to convert. And all of that, the traffic needs to be affordable enough and the conversion rate needs to be high enough such that the numbers work out for my business. And that's ultimately, in the end, your cost per lead could be much lower from building your own lead generation marketing funnel versus the paid lead generation services, because you look at this, because you understand this, and because you optimize it. And we get to that final recommendation for how to succeed here. You need to track your numbers. You need to optimize. You need to track where traffic's going. You need to track what your conversion rate is. And you need to continually make this better as you're gaining more and more experience, as you're gaining more and more understanding of how it's all working specifically within your business. Option 3 here is it's kind of a best of both worlds. It's done with you, custom lead generation. And this is when you hire an agency or work with somebody like me to build a lead generation marketing program for your business. But it's like having that internal marketing, but it's when you're working with an external partner, who brings a similar expertise as lead generation services would bring into your business to give you all the advantages of internal marketing. So there's going to be a lot of repetition here. I should be able to go through these a little bit quicker. Advantage of doing it this way is you're getting those exclusive leads who are attracted specifically to you, meaning your face, your voice is in the marketing. And so they're choosing you. There is differentiation and authority status. Because they're choosing you, they see you as that person who they want to work with, not a service that they need. It is built for your business as opposed to built generically for people in your commodity business type, right? And when you are working with somebody who has a lot of expertise and experience, you are getting lowered marketing risk. You're not eliminating marketing risk, but somebody that has proven systems, that has proven approaches, that's done it a few times before, they can lower the risk because they can pull from their past experience to increase the likelihood of success on any given campaign, on any given opportunity. Disadvantages to doing this is there tends to be a higher fee. It is at the very least a higher fee than hiring some entry-level employee or just doing it yourself. But the question is it a better investment? Are you getting better results? Like, big picture, your goal is not necessarily how can I pay as little as possible for marketing. Big picture is how can I generate the most successful marketing program possible such that the overall economics of my business are the most favorable, right? And so what you might think of as a disadvantage may not be as much of a disadvantage if you go deep versus when you look at it on the surface. Another disadvantage is this still isn't instant. It is similar to building it internally. Maybe that expert can get you to results quicker, but in terms of speed, it is hard to beat somebody who has that constant lead flow and they can just divert some of it your way. So how do you succeed with a partner? You really do want to hire the best and trust their expertise, but you do want to have a way to verify. You want to be able to do things like measure the marketing efficiency ratio, maybe not of your business as a whole. Well, you should be doing that anyway, but specific to the programs that they are controlling, that they're building for you. So if they're losing money on marketing every year and they're just not getting results, well, then they're not the right fit for you. But if they're able to, put $1 in, have it come back as $1 back with a new client in tow, or $1 plus friends with a new client in tow, and you verify through the numbers that they're able to generate that they are getting the kind of results that you want, then that's great, right? But you want to trust them. You want to do effective delegation, which is, we're going to set some goals. We're going to set some benchmarks of expected performance. And I am going to trust that you're going to bring your expertise to the table and figure out how to make that happen. Obviously, with my consent as the business owner, as the person who's being represented here, you want to hire the best and then trust them to get the result that you agreed that they're going to get with you. Focus on results. I would say there are a lot of people in marketing for financial services that are not so focused on so specific and measurable of a result as like booking discovery calls, right? And so they may be focused on, we can get you in specific media. We can do this thing for you. We can put you on YouTube. We can put you on podcasts. We can put you in radio. We can put you on TV. And they're less focused on, we're going to get this specific result for you. And the way that you're going to get that result is if everybody is focused on getting that result. And so make them show you the path, right? If it is a podcast, if it is YouTube, if it is a TV show, if it is radio show, if it is direct mail, if it is whatever, what is the path between that going to someone and that person coming into your office? What are the step-by-step paths, and how does their marketing program enable every step of that path? And if you want to get a better sense of what I'm talking about here, if you go to TheAdvisorCMO.com/system, that's TheAdvisorCMO.com/system, that shows you my system, my approach, my thinking, where I really only think in terms of how can we walk someone down that path? If someone is interested in taking the next step, how do we put that next step in front of them such that the eventual result is they're in your office, they're having that conversation, they're signing the client agreement. And then again, how to succeed: track and optimize, track and optimize, track and optimize. You always want to make sure that you're tracking your numbers and looking to improve where things are not hitting the benchmarks and metrics that you want them to hit. Now, my perspective, again, is like the advisor CMO coming in from this marketing leadership role, evaluating these different options is, number one, start with your current strengths and assets. So like my new client relationships actually start with a planning process, very similar to how your client relationships with a client of yours would start with a planning process. I want to see what assets are in place. I want to see what strengths are there. I want to see what opportunities are in front of you. I want to see what you're doing now. I want to see what you're not doing, what you've tried in the past, right? Start with your current strengths and assets. So if you have a really good sales team, maybe your strengths and assets are, they just need leads, right? If you have a sales team that is demand, I'm sorry. If you have a sales team that's demand constrained and they just need leads, right? The sales team is sitting there by the phone, ready to make calls. Then you probably would benefit, at least in the short term, from buying some leads and giving those sales team people to talk to, right? Or if they are supply constrained, meaning your sales team has all the conversations that they can possibly have right now, maybe you want to invest more in a long-term approach that's going to make it easier and easier for them, or you don't have that sales team in place, that you want only qualified leads who are interested in doing business specifically with you coming to you, so that there is higher quality conversations from the very first conversation. Maybe you want something that is more of an inbound marketing program that you're doing your lead generation. There's nothing wrong here with paying for leads if you can convert them, right? A bunch of people, going back to the very beginning of this, a bunch of people complain about these services. I would say it's more a problem with them being able to convert them being able to make the most of them. And so they don't trust these services because they haven't had a good experience with them, versus the people who pay for the same services, and because they are able to convert them, because they're able to connect with those leads and turn them into clients, then those services work out great for them. So there's nothing wrong with paying for those leads if you can convert them. I would say if you're building just to sell, we're going to get into some very specific strategy here. If you're building just to sell your financial advisory, there is certainly a big advantage to just having a proven sales system off of paid leads. That it is not a bad thing for you to not be the face of a company that you want to sell, where you just have an effective system to buy leads from a number of different lead generation sources and convert those into new clients. Then there's no complications of the founder and the face of the company coming along if you are selling your firm. Okay. Yeah, it's not the only way to build a firm that's sellable, but having that in place certainly is a very attractive asset to somebody who might be coming in to buy. If you're just building to build, I would say positioning you and your firm has a huge, huge snowball effect. When everybody in your target market, whether they do business with you or not, knows who you are, has some level of experience with you, recognizes you, then there's a huge, huge snowball effect to that, right? And so if you're building to build, you might want to have more marketing that features you. You want to have more marketing that really establishes your brand. And I say brand meaning like recognition of you and the value that you provide. If you want to build, having that out in the marketplace is going to be very beneficial to you. And I'll say it's not necessarily either or. It can absolutely be a both and scenario here, where you pay for some leads and you use those to drive some new client acquisition. You build out some marketing and you're using that. And then you have to figure out, depending on how those are both performing, how much effort and investment you put into either side of the equation, right? But it's not one of these versus the other one. It can very easily in a high growth firm be both and, right? And in all cases, if you're going to try these, if you're going to dive into these, if you're going to try and make them work, expect failure. Expect that you will not succeed, that you will not get glowing results out of the gate. The key is to turn your losses into lessons and to persevere. Okay, turn your losses into lessons, to persevere, to keep going. When you fail, that is an opportunity to get better, to recognize something that didn't work. And oftentimes it's a matter of, okay, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work, that did. Okay, that didn't work, that did, that did, that did, that didn't, that didn't, that didn't, that did. And then you start to collect oh, this works, and this works, and this works, and this works, and this works. And the more we use those together, the more effective we are. And early on, it can be painful because there's a lot of failures and not a lot of successes. But the beautiful thing is that once you establish what the repeatable process for success is, that becomes very scalable. And that becomes the secret to real rapid growth through marketing or through this paid lead generation service or whatever it is. And then again, one last thing, know your numbers. Know your numbers, track your numbers, optimize, improve as you go. You're going to keep getting better. That's the secret to making any of these, all of these work. So wrapping up, this is Daily Discovery Calls for Financial Advisors. I'm Roy Furr, the Advisor CMO. Don't forget to subscribe if you got a lot of value out of this. You can also share it with someone who might find it valuable. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm at ROYFURR. That's at Roy Furr or TheAdvisorCMO. And again, if you want to learn more about that daily discovery call system, the thinking behind effective lead generation funnels, it's at TheAdvisorCMO.com/system, TheAdvisorCMO.com/system. And with that, I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Daily Discovery Calls for Financial Advisors. If you got value from this episode, I'd absolutely love it if you do me the favor of sharing it with one other person who you think would also find it valuable. It's how the show can grow and how I can keep bringing this value to you. And if you want to learn more about how you can book more discovery calls with your ideal clients, go to theadvisorcmo.com/podcast.